Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Ever heard these phrases? It's just a little baby fat, she'll grow out of it. Or he's not fat, he's big boned. Or how about she's just got a little meat on her bones? Cute sayings that belie the truth that in the African American community, 40% of our children are obese. African American girls ages 12 to 19 are more obese than any other demographic group. Up next on Another View on Health, Obesity Part 2, how to combat unhealthy eating and get our kids moving. The conversation starts right after this news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. We are so excited here at Another View on Health because we received a grant from Obesity Healthcare Foundation in support of this show and our efforts to bring healthy living to our listeners. So we really appreciate you, Obesity Healthcare Foundation. We thank you so much for your generous support. Later in today's show, Charlie Hill with the Hampton Roads Prostate Health Forum will join us to talk about the 4th annual Prostate Cancer Walk Run. But first, it's all about the health of our children. Last month on Another View on Health, we talked about obesity among adults, and many of you called in with your questions and comments. Today, we continue that conversation, but this time with the focus on our children. Please welcome cardiologist and guest host, Dr. Keith Newby with Fort Norfolk Plaza Cardiology Associates. Hey, Dr. Newby.
How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
Oh, very good.
Good. And Dr. Caren Beasley, medical bariatrician and clinical director of the Medical Weight Loss Program at Sentara Comprehensive Weight Loss Solutions. That's a mouthful. Hi, Caren.
Hi, how are you doing?
So glad to have you back on the show again.
Thank you.
So, 40% of African American children, not overweight, obese. Mm-hmm. Dr. Newby, what's going on?
So, well, I'm convinced it's lifestyle. We kind of touched on this, I think, last time. A lot of people think that being, overweight or morbidly obese is always hereditary, and I think there is some hereditary issues there. But it's clearly, I think you'll find it's become a lifestyle. You think about, nowadays, before, when we were younger, I know you and I were growing up, Dr. Beasley is a little younger than me, so not you,
much.
Of course, just me.
Oh, okay.
At that time, when we were young, your mom sent you out, and come back when
the street lights come on. That's right.
You were out in the street playing ball and staying very active, but this is a different generation. Now they're eating the same amount, but the exercise levels decrease. Mm-hmm. So as a result of that, what's going to happen? You're going to start seeing the weight start picking up.
I was in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago with my granddaughter, who's 3, and I was watching her ride her tricycle up and down the street. And I mean, she was just going for it. And it just reminded me that you don't see kids, Dr. Beasley, out playing, running, doing those things that we used to do when we were young.
It's true. You really don't see them doing that. And there's a few reasons. First of all, there's always safety issues. It's not the same as it used to be when I was growing up. Mom actually would let us go out riding bikes. We kind of told her where we were going to be and what time we'd be back.
In the general area, right.
Now, letting your child out without a cell phone so you can check on them or whatever and make sure, it seems weird. But also, kids have got so many other things they can do that uses screens.
Yes, and that whole just sitting on the couch and sitting in front of the computer, whatever that device is and that they're using. But we're going to talk about some ways that can even help them lose weight, aren't we?
That's right.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. We're talking about helping your child, your children lose weight, become more active, and by extension, if you also personally have a weight issue, helping yourself in addition to that. So the first thing you hear, or one of the things you hear a lot is that everything is supersized. Everywhere you go, you can get the supersized soda, you can get the supersized fries, so forth and so on. That also adds to it, Dr. Newby.
Oh, of course. Just that the supersize, then what it is that you're supersizing. One thing, you supersize some carrots and celery. Nobody wants that. But the things that you talk, these high fat, saturated fat type diets, and it's just going to increase the weight.
Well, I'm curious though, Dr. Beasley, because when we talk about 2 to 5-year-olds, 11% are obese. We teach our children what to eat. So why, even at that young age, are we seeing so much weight gain?
Well, what we've actually found in studies is children up to 3 years old primarily eat from a hunger standpoint. Now, they have preferences, and they have different taste buds at that age than they do when they're older, and our taste buds actually change quite a bit over our lifetime. But until 3, they're eating for hunger. But by the time they're 3, they have actually learned how to eat for non-hunger reasons, and they have learned to pattern behaviors and snacking behaviors, that type of thing. So especially if we've taught them how to do that, they will pick that up.
So what are some of the things that both of you would tell a parent, say that you have an infant or a toddler as they start the age where they start to eat solid foods? What should they be focused on, and what things should you stay away from, Dr. Newby?
Well, I think the first thing is that you'll find is our generation is more of a quick response scenario, meaning, say, your kid starts crying, you immediately just assume they're hungry. You start shoving food at them, and put this bottle in your mouth and be quiet. And that does happen. And I think, those types of things, instead of saying, maybe they crying for another reason, maybe they want to get out of the house for a minute. Things that, that instead of just assuming that it's a hunger issue, and the kids get into this pattern of eating based on some of the things that we do. Or how we train them to behave. So I think, to me, the first step is really true identification of what their issues are when they're crying or making noise, and then try to get them out of that habit of trying to shove, a ton of food in front of them and say, eat the, because we're growing up and say, clean your plate, but you really supposed to eat till you're full and then stop. And that may just be a little bit of food for that particular time frame. So you got to change the whole way of thinking, and that's where I think we really need to go on.
And some of it too is cultural, because when grandma says, "Oh, let that baby eat that whatever," or I'm going to cook this large meal. How do you start to change those patterns, Dr. Beasley?
That's a great point, because I give the example of my parents were growing up. They both individually lived on farms, and they ate like farm boys, okay? But they worked like farm boys, so they could go ahead and eat all that kind of food that they ate. They ate large amount of calories, but they were also out milking the cows at 3 a.m. They were also out baling the hay when they first came home from school, when they had to walk 3 miles each direction in the snow uphill,
Yes.
that type of thing. So, but they grew up thin. As soon as they got married, they moved to the burbs. Okay, boom, big weight gain, and then all the health issues with that. So, unfortunately, Grandma is still remembering when we were doing a lot more physical activity. It was okay to do that. Today's world's very, very different, and so we've got to find other ways to reward and to make people happy. And food's easy and cheap. And everyone loves cupcakes, right? But there's other things we can do instead. You have to put more thought into it.
And this is not just about losing weight because we want people to be thin. Talk to us, Dr. Newby, about what you're seeing in children that we have not seen in past generations because our children are so heavy.
I think the biggest thing is the disease processes that come as a result is a much higher incidence of hypertension, much higher incidence of diabetes, and I'm seeing kids, 12, 11, 10 years old who are becoming diabetic. And the problem is, and what we try to tell them is, people blow these disease processes off. But what happens is, by the time you get to mid-20s, all of a sudden your heart disease starts. And we're seeing it younger and younger. And that's what the fear factor is for me, is I'm seeing this pattern. And I have this soft spot for kids. I hate seeing kids ill or sick, because they don't really understand all of what they're doing. And, unfortunately, that's our job, to try to help them. But I'm seeing those disease processes coming out, high cholesterol levels, and then it starts getting to the other, early arthritis, joint problems. So by the time you get knee, I had a young lady in my office not too long ago that came to me as a pre-op clearance. She's like 28. She's getting a knee replacement.
At 28?
At 28.
Because she's carrying around so much weight.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you see that, that'll break your heart when you see that, because that's preventable. A lot of that stuff is preventable. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. That's a tough road when you're used to doing things a certain way, and it's hard to break habits, because you can't get it by really help you, because you go anywhere, they start to shove food in your face again. I told you, go wedding, funerals, birthday parties, whatever, any event, somebody's getting, ordained minister, you go to any ceremonies. Typically, there's going to be a lot of stuff there that you probably don't need, and unfortunately, so and then listen, they have one of those events and don't have something there. Where the food?
So we should pretty much count on the fact that how we eat and how we feel about food is being transferred to our children, Dr. Beasley.
Absolutely. Just last week I had an 8-year-old that I saw in our clinic, and I had to tell her parents that she's very close to diabetes and she had very high cholesterol. 8 years old, she's going to have heart disease by 20 if she doesn't do something. It used to be, 40, 50, you were told you had high cholesterol, and 60, 70. We're seeing these diseases way
Did that
young.
frighten the parents
when
you told them?
It did. There's usually lots of tears and that kind of thing. And you have to say, listen, we have this. We can take care of it. It's not the end, but we can see your future right now. Your future is diabetes. It is heart disease. It's 20 pills a day. It's disability. Or you can do something now, and we can completely avoid that. Okay,
let's talk about some specifics that we can do, but I want to throw the phone number out again, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We're talking about ways that we can help our children be healthier, eat healthier, and exercise more. So one of the things that we hear a lot about lately, particularly lately, are what we call food deserts. That a lot of people who live in low-income areas don't have access to grocery stores where they can buy fresh fruits and vegetables and so forth. And Dr. Newby, I know your brother has a program where the farm market comes and you can actually buy vegetables. But what do you say to a mom who wants to feed her children healthy, but may find it difficult to get to the store?
Well, sometimes, depending on the environment, I'm a firm believer in even trying to grow your own stuff. You get little potted plants, and grow. I have for the most part, very brown thumb, but I try every year, and I had an overrun of tomatoes and cucumbers this year. My sister's much better than I at doing that, but those types of things, and I have a very small planter that do this in. So, if you can if you have even a remote green thumb, you can make that work. So, there's certain things you can do. Unfortunately, so there's a lot of things that without those food desert programs that bring stuff to you, it's really tough because they have to get somewhere. And when you look at it, you almost feel like it's I hate to say it on the radio like conspiracy theory, but when you go to certain neighborhoods, there's just no stores there, at least not that have anything that you want.
You can find all the fast food places.
You go there. There's the Chinese place has got 2 tons of sodium in there. You get a ton of stuff, or some of the other fast food places. You go buy a whole ton of things for $1, and that is appealing to a family with very limited means. And they say, "Well, I need to feed my family," and then they say, "I can get all this for $1." And I understand where they're coming from with that, because that's a tough life to lead when you feel like you don't have the resources. But unfortunately, so the downside is what it's doing to you in the future.
Okay, so Dr. Beasley, let's take a family. Let's say we have a single mom and she's got 2 kids, and let's say she has about $300 to work with food for the month. Okay, what are some of the things that she could purchase? Or how, even before what she could purchase, how should she think about structuring what she needs for the month so that she and her kids will eat healthy?
Okay. Well, the main thing that we're seeing in are people who are overweight, okay, because all this nutritional advice is for people who are trying to eat healthier but lose weight in the process. Usually what's deficient in our diet is fruits, vegetables, and protein. Okay, it's easy to find the carbohydrates, the prepackaged things that last on the shelf for a long time. So that's really important too. We need to learn to buy some of the things more in bulk in cans, like dried beans is one of my favorite foods. It's so healthy. You can put it into so many things, and they're actually really, really cheap. You can buy them in these big old bags. A lot of people don't realize that in the second half of the month is usually when the meats are on sale. Okay, and so if you kind of wait and stock up on things like that,
see,
we learn something new every
day. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that really helps. If you can learn to stock up on things like that, but
and then freeze them
and freeze them. So even for people who really truly cannot make the ends meet on, especially if all you're getting is food stamps, that type of thing. I tell people, go to your food pantries and buy or get the stuff there. They have lots of carbohydrates there. Okay, so you get that there, and then save your food stamps for the things that aren't there. Again, more
the
perishable.
fruits and vegetables and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We got a couple of questions on our Facebook page. One fan wants to know. She says that people should stop microwaving food, and that parents are too busy to cook, and that's part of the problem in terms of gaining weight. Either one of you want to react?
Okay. Microwaving food, there's two concerns. People say, well, microwave radiation is not healthy. I have to say I've not seen evidence to that. And if that's one way we can use it, I don't have a problem with that. But unfortunately, when we're talking about microwaving food, we're usually talking about microwaving processed packaged foods. And although you can get healthier options, a lot of times we don't. So if you're talking about getting a can of green beans, rinsing them off, put them in the microwave, I got no problem with that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, and the whole issue of cooking, because people don't cook like our grandparents, our parents used to cook, where they would sit down and cook a meal every day. Should that be a goal of everyone, for everybody to be able to sit down to at least one meal a day, Dr. Newby?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily. I tell you what, like I do. Because my schedule is the way it is, and it's really bad during the week. On Sundays, especially in the summer times, and my daughter and I, I go out on the grill, and I love doing that. And so Saturday, Sunday, like Sunday after church, and I go, my daughter and I, my 8-year-old, will go to the store, get what we're gonna cook out that day, and I cook it for the week. So I'll and I just go for it. Of course, I'm all ashen and gray by the time I get done with all the smoke. But I love grilled food, and I tend to enjoy that. We'll get vegetables, grill that. Squash, what have you, and get some meats and chicken and turkey and things like that, and I just cook it out there. So you can, we're all busy, but that you can plan ahead. It's just a lot of times people don't want to do the planning. It's like, okay, I'll do this tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, okay, I'll do it the next day, and you'll put it off. But you really get yourself in a habit and a plan of how you want to proceed. And even somebody, I work 12 to 18 hours a day most days. If I can find time to do it, people can find time to do it.
And if it's important, you plan.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not important, if you don't, think that that's important, it's easy to kind of grab and go. And we've all fallen into the grab and go. But you're right. We cook a big old pot of ham and beans, and you put them in Gladware things, and you can freeze some of them. They're actually even better left over than it is
Once
fresh.
that seasoning gets in there,
Exactly.
Absolutely. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. What are some of the things you're doing to make sure that your children are eating healthy and being able to lose weight? Another Facebook fan wants to know, how do you make vegetables more appealing to children? Do we train our kids not to like vegetables because we frown up at the taste of a certain vegetable, or is it really the taste buds?
I think I agree with her.
Yeah.
I think it's the taste buds, because I even think about when I was growing up, I used to like broccoli, but I hated other stuff. My mom would beat me down to say, boy, eat that stuff. And I didn't like it, but like as I got older, as I was getting into more of that college age and adulthood, I started really saying, man, this tastes pretty good. So things I never wanted to eat as a child, I was forced to do it, and it was better for me that I was forced to do it, but I never didn't like it. Now I actually like it.
Well, and that's the question. So if your child just likes the broccoli, do you force them to eat other greens, or do you just keep giving them broccoli if that's what they want to eat?
I have no problem giving them broccoli, but when my son was growing up, the rule was, taste a bite. Okay, taste it and see. You don't say you don't like it. You never taste it. You can't say you don't like it. Put a piece in your mouth. If you still really, truly don't like it, okay. And, maybe a few months later we'll try it again. But that's fine.
Okay. 440-2665, 1-800-940-2240. We're looking for your tips on how to help our children eat more healthy. Chris joins us from Hampton. Hi, Chris. You're on the air.
Hi, I'm actually just visiting my family down here, and where I live is a small community in Lander, Wyoming. We're at the base of the Wind River Mountains, so technically we are considered a Zone 4 area, which means we're high desert plains with long winter months. So gardening is quite the challenge out there, but my comment on this terrific subject matter had to do with the innovations or the initiatives that our community is taking to get children into farm-to-school programs. And what we're doing in our community garden, I'm a healthcare provider at our hospital as well as a community garden coordinator. And so what I see in the hospital and what I see in our community is that with the schools, we're trying to get more after-school program children to our community garden so that they can learn about gardening and tips to take back to their families and really get their hands in the dirt so that they understand where food comes from, as well as getting them excited about how to grow food and eat nutritious food. Another program that we've gotten help from in the reservation, because I am surrounded by the Wind River Reservation, is bringing the community programs that they have on the reservation and our community programs and getting people to the garden, getting families to the garden and offer scholarships so that they can afford a plot there, and doing programs that show them how to conserve their vegetables, so canning classes, freezing classes, and showing them recipes of how to cook the vegetables that they are able to grow. I just think it's really sad that we're seeing so many young children not get a great start in life because of their family being unable to afford nutritious food. But for something that's free or available to them, like a community garden or having a garden plot and not having the tools to do it, our community is trying to give people those tools and that knowledge.
Chris, let me ask you a quick question. Do you find that when the kids go home and they're very excited about the work they've been doing in the garden and so forth, is there a disconnect in terms of trying to get the parents to cook the food, to encourage the kids, that kind of thing?
I'd say it's split 50-50. Some parents, I think, are disconnected to their children overall. Those are the parents that you see that they come to the hospital, you tell them what they need to do, and they blow it off because my family has lived like this and it's a cyclical pattern. Then you see families that see the interest that their children bring to them, and then we see them at the farmers market with their family every Tuesday and Saturday coming to get the groceries together, coming to pick out the vegetables. And the last part that you guys were just talking about, where, how do you get children to eat certain foods because of how they look, and do you flavor it? We find that some of the kids that come to our garden, they're excited because they see something colorful, like a purple carrot, or, eggplants, or something that doesn't look normal, and then you create something from that. And that's the second part of our community initiative, is bringing families together to learn how to cook together.
Okay, thank you so much for the call, Chris. We really appreciate that. So just some other ways to get kids excited. Holly joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Holly, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you for taking my call.
Sure. Hi.
I just wanted to say, I wish I could remember the number. I'm sorry I don't, but I know the very high percentage of our food dollar is wasted on food that we purchase and then wind up throwing out. And the very best way to avoid this is to actually force yourself, and I speak as someone who, I don't have to do this anymore, but I used to do it back when I had a bunch of children and I was working full time, and it is hard. But if you can force yourself to sit down and make a menu for the week and then plan your shopping around that, you don't buy things that you don't use. And the other thing, which is perhaps even more helpful, is that, you get home and it's Tuesday and it's 5:30 and you're tired and you're a lot less tempted to order out for something if you don't have to think about what to cook, because it already says on the refrigerator that tonight you're having, X, Y, or Z.
That's a great idea.
You don't have to make that decision. And the other thing is, it's amazing, if you have, when you buy fresh food, sometimes you do have things left over. it's really easy to, if they're not fitting into the menu for that night, and you see they don't have much time left, cook them up and freeze them. You can always throw them in a soup or a stew later. Instead of letting them sit there until they mold, just go ahead and cook them up and freeze them.
Okay, thank you so much for those helpful suggestions. We appreciate your call, Holly. And you're listening to Another View. We're talking with Dr. Keith Newby and Dr. Caren Beasley about helping our children become healthier. And we have to get to the exercise part very quickly, and we're going to do that. But first, we're going to talk to Jessica from Virginia Beach. Hi, Jessica. You're on the air. Jessica, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're on the air.
Okay. I'm calling. I've been a single parent for many years, and now I have 4 teenagers at home. And what I like to do is, like Holly said, plan a menu, but also to cook more fresh foods, make meals that like you're in the kitchen for a while and you cook more than one thing. So maybe you take a raw chicken, and put it in water and let it boil with some carrots and celery and make a stock. And then you've got the chicken. You can make chicken salad or other foods. You've got the stock for maybe, I make a lot of like potato and leek soups or using pasta and rice. And then hiding vegetables in sauce works really well. For kids, you can hide anything, endives. I mean, really, whatever you can find at the store that's maybe not so expensive or on its way out, you can usually hide in a sauce with a little cream or tomato, something like that. But I do believe in making big batches of things, and then you have them for the week.
Okay. Jessica, I'm going to get a reaction from Dr. Beasley, because I think she wants to talk about what kind of sauce.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I mean, that's great ideas. But the problem is sauces, again, if you're not just trying to feed your children healthy, but you're trying to feed your children healthy and help them lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
sauces usually are part of the problem, throwing cheese on it, that kind of stuff. So, that's excellent. And if you're using more like, I'm going to dice up some tomatoes and kind of put that in there, but if we're like saying, hey, I'm going to throw a little broccoli in the mac and cheese, okay, that's not
quite, that doesn't quite get it, does it?
Well, most kids, some kids getting smarter now. They got my daughter knows. She's like, what's that?
So the sauce doesn't hide it.
She sees a lumpy bump in there that she knows not supposed to be there. She looks at me, what's that, Dad?
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. What are you doing to get your kids up and off the couch and away from the video games? Dr. Beasley, you said earlier before the show that children need an hour of exercise a day.
An hour of active play a day.
An hour of active play
and
a day.
We're just not seeing that anymore. And the thing is, the parents have to be part of this. You can't just throw the kids outside and say, go play. You do that to me and I'd take a book and I'd sit in the corner. Then you have to come looking for me. So, we had to play when my son was growing up. We played what I called driveway badminton, where you put a chalk line on the driveway and you just get out the rackets and badminton. We were terrible, which is good because then you had to run after the little birdie. And it was cheap, and we both got our exercise in. But, we had to plan that out. So that's part of the issue is we're not getting our kids active. They're sitting in front of their screens. Mm-hmm. And we're getting way too much screen time.
So what about things like the games that you can play or that get you active? Are they enough in terms of getting kids active?
I always think it depends on what they're doing and how long they're doing it, for. Because, if you have where there's so many breaks in between, it's like if you have, say, several kids playing and they
have to pass the remote around and so forth.
I still think, I'm old school. I still think the best way is just get out there and do stuff, playing basketball or whatever, those types of things, because it's going to be more consistent play and it's going to be, you really think about it. One of the things for me personally is, I like riding my bike. And I've gotten into this habit of starting to ride it on weekends when I'm working. If I'm going to the hospital, I ride my bike in from the house to the hospital, and that actually helps me stay active. But if I were to go and ride on the stationary bike, I'm not going to go nearly as far on that as I will out in the streets.
So there's something physical that everyone can do, because I'm like Dr.
Yes.
Beasley. I went and sat in the corner with the book, but I guess you say your term was to find the least, something you like the least.
That's right. I used to tell people, do what you love, and then I learned to say, what do you hate the least? But, with that little 8-year-old girl that I saw, who is not normally all that active, I asked her what she liked to do, and she said, well, I like to hula hoop. Apparently she found a new hula hoop, and I said, well, how many times can you go around? And she's like, 1. And I said, that's great. Let's see if we can make it 3. So that's your goal. And then, do you think your dad can do it? Let's see if you can get your dad to do it, because now it's a game. You gotta get the family involved. Kids will do what the parents do. If the parents are sitting in front of the TV, they will too. So now dad can do it a couple times. Okay, so it's again, she had fun. It was play, not work, and that's what helps.
And that's what helps. In 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Our phones are lit up. Tanya joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Tanya. You're on the air.
How are you today?
Hello, Tanya.
How are you today?
We're fine. We can barely hear you. Are you on a cell phone or are you on a speakerphone?
I'm on a cell phone. Now you probably can hear me better.
Okay,
That's
much better.
yeah.
Yes, much better.
Okay, I'm sorry about
That's okay.
that.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say I have 4 young children. I have a 3-year-old, 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And the way that I have always gotten them to eat vegetables started out when they were babies. So I would offer, like rutabaga or something like that. They didn't like it at first, but I didn't ever stop trying, giving it to them. I always offered it to them. And eventually they developed a taste for it, because I have my 3-year-old now. She loves rutabaga, but she didn't at first. She tasted it. She spit it out. Whenever I have it, I always offer it, give it to her, and she would eventually taste it, and she'd go back for a little bit more. And then the next time it was the same thing.
So you didn't make her sit there to eat. You didn't make her sit there until she ate it.
No,
Okay.
no. I
Okay.
just offered it, and she spit it out, and I didn't force her. But the next time I had it, I still gave it to her, and we would sit around, and I would give it to her, encouraging her to eat it. She would taste it and say, okay, and I would sit and I would eat it with her. We both eat it, and my other children, everybody's eating their rutabaga, so she sees it, so she's modeling everyone else, and and then eventually she started to like it. So I think taste buds, develop. So you don't stop giving them something just because the first time they say, oh, I don't like broccoli. And I find parents, they always just say, my child doesn't like broccoli. Well, I think that maybe you didn't, at least give it, a try. Meaning, at least give it to them, at least 7. I think the research says that, a child develops taste, over a food, like over a certain amount of times that you give it to them, like 12 times. They eventually will accept the food.
Okay. Thank you so much for that tip, Tanya. We really appreciate that call. Priscilla joins us from Chesapeake. Hi, Priscilla. You're on the air.
Hi. I wanted to make the comments about food, and then I can also talk about the exercise. But with our kids, we started very early the concept of portion control, mainly desserts. And both my husband and I work professional jobs, and I think the whole work environment is very clear. You do something, and you get a reward in the form of, for us, a paycheck or promotions, etc. So for our kids, I never wanted to force them to eat their food, but if they finish the good stuff, which is the proteins and the vegetables, then they get their reward, which would be a dessert. And so from a very young age, their dessert is the size of a thumbnail. So they think that this is great because it's a little bit of sweets. And until they're exposed to their cousins or their grandparents, this is their idea of a portion size. And then maybe when they're in preschool, then it becomes like the size of their thumb. Until they go to like a restaurant, then that's the whole family dessert. So that they will eat their broccoli and their vegetables and whatever they like, but then they do get something in return. And we use that also to get them to run around the house, clean up, empty their dishes. And I know a lot of parents don't believe in this concept of reward, but doing something just for the innate motivation of doing it. But I find that that's very effective with kids. And the other is that since we've been doing this for so long, they have the understanding that every meal comes with a vegetable, and it's not full without having the vegetable, so that they'll ask too, well, what's the vegetable that we're having? And then they'll go into their, well, I don't like that, but ultimately they're going to have to eat it if they want their dessert, because that's the vegetable that we're having. And they understand that in our family, we have a vegetable that's usually twice the size of the meat, and
twice the size of the meat. Okay, so it's all about portion control then in their family. Priscilla, thanks so much for that call. I wonder though, how do we instill in our children, if this is the way you eat at home, that when you do go to grandma's house or you do go to your friend's house and they're having candy and, large size portions of desserts and so forth, what do we teach our kids so that they can combat that, especially if they're having to lose weight right now?
That's communication. I mean, I think you have to, and sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes you got to put some fear in them. So the deal, and you tell whoever
they're going to visit.
They're going to, so listen, I need them not to have X, Y, Z. And, and I know kids will be kids, but sometimes you got to kind of put the law of the land down. This is the way it's going to be. Try me if you want to. This is what's going to come as a result. I mean, I know it may sound a little coarse, but sometimes you got to do that because, they're kids, and they will easily influence. So, I mean, if somebody says, go ahead and take this, and they say, man, I've never had this before. This is great. They'll go and do it. So,
and, that is a problem. A lot of parents who, especially when they have young kids and they have not introduced sugar to or candies, and so forth, and then their child goes to a play date or something and the other parent just gives it to them. Dr. Beasley.
A lot of that, it's all about moderation too. I'm not a proponent of never eating anything that's less ideal. Special occasions have special occasion food. If you're having 3 special occasions a week, we need to kind of redefine special occasion. And so if every once in a while they're going to a friend's house and have a little something, that's one thing. But I completely agree. If your child had a medical illness where they couldn't eat certain things, like say celiac disease or whatever, you would talk to those parents and say they can't have these things. Well, obesity is also a medical disease, and, you need to talk to the parents, too, and say, this is what they're eating, and I'm sending Billy with their lunch, not just relying on this person to try to figure out what's healthy for your child.
That's a very, very good point. Florence joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Florence, you're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to talk about frozen vegetables. A lot of people can talk about that farmers markets can be hard to get to and expensive, but I think the thing about vegetables, people have got to learn how to season them. It seems like it's a lost art. What herbs, better than bouillon, which is a very good product, particularly you want to give that meat flavor. Salt is not number one in that, like in others, and with olive oil, but you can do a lot to season up frozen vegetables. And of course, black-eyed peas don't take that long cooking, but you got to put quite a lot of seasonings in them. And try roasting vegetables. Roast broccoli and cauliflower, and of course, sweet potatoes are always good. So a lot of people say they don't like vegetables. I think you put them in a bag with a little olive oil and salt and a little bit of sugar and pepper and roast them at a fairly high heat. And they're absolutely delicious, and they caramelize.
And that sounds really good. Thank you so much, Florence.
Young people in the schools ought to be taught, not like when I was in school years ago, I'm 76, where you had cake making and muffin and all in home ec, but have a brief course of just how to cook good vegetables and meat simply but with flavor. And I think then you get people doing a much better job.
Thank you so much for your call, Florence. Florence brings up a very good point in terms of learning how to work with the foods that you have in order to make them tasty and still help your child lose weight.
It's exactly right. It's a lost art and how to cook properly. Again, we're all eating out so much. I remember how often we ate out. And it's not anything like what kids are doing today. So seasoning is important, but just be careful. Adding a little bit of olive oil and that type thing can easily triple the calories of your green beans by doing it like that. So you also have to, again, if obesity is part of the issue, it's not just eating vegetables, but making sure you're also watching your calories.
So I guess a bottom line thing is that we really do need to pay attention to what our kids are eating and keeping their weight in line. Is there such a thing? Now, how do you account for the growth spurts and things that are just natural for kids, where a child can be pudgy, at a certain age, and then they can start getting taller, and then they lose the weight.
Well, I tell you what I mean. At least my particular viewpoints on that is, you kind of look at the body dimensions, and you kind of follow them along as they're getting older, and you kind of look at the growth charts and see kind of where they are and things and where they should be. One of the things I always found when I'm ready to start losing weight, I get on the scale like all the time, because it's nothing worse. You either get in front of the mirror with no clothes on, or you're getting on the scale on a daily basis, and you can start to really see, and you motivate yourself to do things. Because what happens, we tend to avoid things. So if you avoid the scale, you think about it. If you avoid seeing your child expand, that's a problem. Every time a patient comes to the office, they start getting on the scale before they get there. It's like the last couple of days, 2 or 3 days before, like that's really gonna make any difference. But they do that because then they're starting to pay attention. Because they say, "Oh, I know what Newby gonna say when I get there," and so they don't even want to hear my mouth. So they start doing things like they're supposed to ahead of time. But instead of doing it every day, they just do it like maybe a week before. But that tends to start to make them think about what they're eating when they look at what they're weighing on a day-to-day basis. So all of a sudden the weight goes up and they cut back because they're trying to get ready for that visit. But if you do that every day, it will motivate you to do that. And you will catch when the weight starts picking up quickly. So when you look at a kid and they're starting to grow up, but you look at their dimensions, look at the growth charts, you can see where they should be. And if they're really monitoring them, you can really kind of catch that stuff early before it gets out of control.
Okay, Dr. Beasley, I'm going to give you the last word on encouraging parents in terms of making choices about helping their children to lose weight. And then we're going to talk to Charlie in just a second.
Okay. The most important things I would say for kids as general rules, if, again, their weight is going to be affecting their health. Okay, you want to get them healthy. I hate to talk about weight so much with kids. I like to talk about health. But the general things that you can do really simply is stop drinking liquids with calories, except for milk. Okay. Limit screen time to 2 hours a day, unless it's homework, non-work screen time, okay? And try to get that hour of activity in a day. Those things will really make a difference with our kids.
That's fantastic. Well, joining us now by phone is Mr. Charlie Hill with the Hampton Roads Prostate Cancer Forum. Charlie is a prostate cancer thriver and a tireless advocate for prostate cancer education. Hi, Charlie. How are you?
I'm great, Barbara, and how are you?
Doing just fine. Now, we wanted to give you a few minutes to talk about the upcoming 1 mile walk run, which is on September 7th, right?
That is correct. And let me first thank you for being a tireless supporter of what we're trying to do in Hampton Roads, which is save lives. We want to reduce the number of men who die from prostate cancer. I also want to thank Dr. Beasley and Dr. Newby for their information and your callers for their tips, because they provide an excellent segue into what we want to talk about now. As you just said, Saturday, September the 7th, provides an opportunity for all of your listeners to join us in the 4th annual Prostate Cancer Walk and Run at the Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute. And this is not on campus. This is at 40 Enterprise Parkway in Hampton. And the reason that this is important, and the reason that this show today is so important in terms of what you're speaking about, is that we're going to be talking about nutrition. We're going to be talking about those things that are important to people who are at risk of having prostate cancer, or who have already been diagnosed and they're trying to have high-quality lives. It may be interesting to your audience is that the controllable factors in dealing with prostate cancer are high-fat, high-salt, and high-sugar diets, excess weight, people not eating enough vegetables and fruits. And the key point at the end here is lack of vigorous exercise on a regular basis. Now, you've hit upon all of those points in today's show, and the correlation is very high in terms of prostate health and prostate cancer. I am also intrigued by the fact that unless I missed someone, all of your callers were women, which is the target audience for me. I would like for all of your listeners to join us on September the 7th at 8 a.m. We are particularly interested in mothers, wives, sisters, daughters, and other female relatives and friends, because we know that women do a much better job of taking time to understand health issues and then taking the appropriate action. So this is a call to action to all of the women in Hampton Roads to be there with us at 8 a.m. on Saturday, September the 7th, and we're going to have a great time educating, learning, sharing information about prostate health and prostate cancer. And to register, all you need to do is call area code 757-251-6800.
Okay, and it is free. You just come out and walk, and then there are all these seminars and information. And Charlie, you really do push the female becoming involved, because we know that women in the household are the ones who send the men to the doctor, don't we, Dr. Newby?
Yeah, run the show. That's the bottom line.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, I think the other point that we want to share is that early stage prostate cancer that has not spread has no symptoms. And I want the ladies to know this, because if you're waiting for the men in your life, in your lives to tell you something, they may not have anything to tell you, because early stage prostate cancer that's localized does not have any symptoms, and we want to be sure that everyone understands that. And I also like the point that Dr. Beasley mentioned earlier about 1 hour of active play a day for children. My question is, why not 1 hour of active play for adults in the form of physical fitness and exercise?
Absolutely. Charlie, the one thing that men are most worried about, I guess, is the exam that they need to take. You've got about a minute left. Can you just encourage men in terms of why they need to have their test done for prostate cancer?
I think what you want to do, men and the ladies, I want you to reinforce this. You want to have regular PSA tests, that's a blood test, and regular digital exams, and these are companion activities, and you want to do them on a regular basis so that you can compare the results, so that the healthcare professional or the doctor involved can compare the results. If you don't do it on a regular basis, you have very little to compare, and it does not hurt, and it does not create a problem for a man if it's done properly after that examination.
Okay.
So we need to demystify that.
Okay, Charlie Hill, thank you so much for joining us with the Hampton Roads Prostate Cancer Forum. The 1 mile walk run is Saturday, September 7th from 8 until noon at the Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute. You can call 251-6800 in order to register. And we will be right back.
I am Brother Cornell West, and when I'm in Hampton Roads, I make it a point to listen to Another View with my dear sister Barbara Ham Lee on WHRV-FM.
And thank you so much, Dr. West. And we also appreciate Dr. Newby and Dr. Beasley for being here with us to talk about our health and about losing weight. While it takes some of us years to figure out what we want to do, you're about to meet an 11-year-old who has her future plans all laid out and is pursuing them with passion. Our Lisa Godley recently had the pleasure of sitting down with Miss Gabrielle Pinckney.
Gabrielle Pinckney isn't your typical 11-year-old. Gabrielle, or Bree as her friends call her, is always on the go, whether she's competing in pageants, singing at church, or participating in special events. And she's been performing for audiences since she was in the first grade.
When I was 6 years old, I said, Mom, I want to do praise and worship. And she was like, you can't sing, Gabrielle. What are you talking about? And I said, yes, I can. Anything is possible. And when I started singing, she's like, wow, I really love her singing.
She says her favorite song is You Are Great by Juanita Bynum, and her favorite singer is Whitney Houston.
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead This the way. Was my second year. I just went to Miss Virginia 2013, and I got second runner-up, so I'm happy.
And she's not about to slow down.
Let the children's laughter remind us how we used. I will continue to compete in pageants, so I'm very excited to continue.
Many people are afraid to perform in front of large crowds. Not Bree.
No, I'm never nervous. I just have fun and be myself.
While singing is her passion, her first priority is school. Her mother, LaScotia Pinckney, makes sure of that.
Our rule is, in order for you to be able to do all these extra things, school comes first. So being able to have the privilege to do those things, it is a motivator for her to excel in school. And she does it. She just loves what she does. And as she say, if you love what you do, then it's not work.
I would like to be a famous singer and write my own songs. So I would also like to be a songwriter, and I would also like to be on Broadway. In order to be a singer, I think that you should work really hard so you can make that happen and just be yourself and really enjoy the moment.
Bree has already written her first single, titled Anything is Possible.
And I really wanted to write this song to tell kids just like me that have low self-confidence that they can do anything they want to if they believe that they can.
Bree definitely has a lot on her plate. Her mom says she's astonished at times when she hears her daughter talking about her future.
It's amazing to me that at 11 years old, she has this great plan for her future. So I think it's just a part of who she is. As the old people would say, she was just born with an old soul. So it's just, I think, her destiny. It is what she was born to do.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
Wow, Gabrielle Pinckney, 11 years old. That story was produced by Ashley Dillard, a rising junior at Norfolk State University and an intern with us here at Another View this summer. And I want to take just a moment to say thank you to all of the interns that we had at Another View this summer. They're all going back to college, and we wish you the very best. We hope something we've said today will help you if you or your child is struggling with weight issues. If you'd like to hear the show again or share it with a friend, go to WHRV.org, click on 89.5, and then on Listen. The Another View show is on the first page. And then go on over to anotherviewradio.org and sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming programs. Next week, we commemorate the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington with guests who were there in 1963 and are going again this weekend. We want to hear from you about your thoughts on the civil rights movement. For producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Victor Bowen, Lauren Horton, who answered our phones, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Have a fabulous weekend, and let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.